Hi and welcome to another long form video here on TikTok. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update of where I've been and why there has not been very many updates on my page. Um, it has been eventful to say the least. I've been admitted to the ER twice, once via ambulance, and the second thankfully was on my own accord. I had severe back pain and the medication I have at home for my spasms were not kicking in. It was not um, kicking it in the butt at all. In fact, I woke up at 3 in the morning the day that I decided to go into the ER with severe back pain and shortness of breath due to the back pain. But let's go back 2 days prior to that. It was Thursday, May 23rd. I was going in to have lab work done. Unfortunately, I had to be fasting. And my body, due to my hypoglycemia, severe hypoglycemia episodes, does not fast well. In fact, they pretty much know me by name now at the Kaiser Orchard Urgent Care here in Downey, California. So they pretty much know me by name because every time I go in to get lab work done, if I fasted, I will either have a basal reaction or have a severe hypoglycemic episode in the lab where they have to be called and I have to be transported to the urgent care. So that's exactly what happened. As soon as the lab work was completed and they were able to remove the needle from my arm, I fainted. I passed out. This was one of the worst ever hypoglycemic events I've had in my life. I had to be revitalized with glucagon. I was unable to even drink juice. My blood sugar was so low. It was in the 20s. And for those that don't know, normal blood sugar is between 70 and 140. And my blood sugar hit 20 before they actually administered the glucagon. They were actually looking for a vein to administer D50, which is basically double what glucagon would have been. But my veins are so tiny that they weren't able to find a vein, and they just administered glucagon as you would an insulin injection, basically. I pretty much immediately woke up, freaked out, did not know where I was, began to self-injure due to my autism and just processing what everything was going on with the fear and my anxiety. So they took me over, they stabilized me enough to transport me over to the urgent care office, where I was then transferred to the ER via ambulance. I at first, when they told me you need to go to ER, I immediately declined and said I'm not going to the ER. But thankfully, there was a nurse there who had seen me in the past, recognized me, and kind of knew my story, and she was able to share as to why I wouldn't go. But then she also spoke to me and said, look, your blood sugar was 20. We gave you glucagon. Per protocol, we have to send you to the ER. We cannot let you go home. Not with a blood sugar of 20. I'm sorry, it cannot happen. So she explained that to me, and I finally said, okay, I'll go into the ER. During this time, because of my anxiety, I dissociate. And I was intermittently dissociating. having dissociation episodes. And during those dissociation episodes, my SATs, oxygen saturation, would drop into the 80s, which again further cemented the fact that I needed to go to the ER. When I got to the ER, I was pretty quickly seen by a doctor who witnessed one of the dissociation episodes and proceeded to decide that he needed to do an emergency EEG on the floor, which I was too out of it to even deny at this point. They did the EEG. I had 3 episodes of the dissociation, which prompted the EEG tech to do a sternal rub during every one of those. I obviously did not respond because I was completely dissociated. And I knew that that EEG was going to come back negative, which it did. So once that was done and everything came out negative, it was then time to bring up my blood sugar. And this is where everything basically goes sideways. As I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, I have an eating disorder that is anxiety-based. It's an unspecified feeding or eating disorder. I initially thought it was ARFID, and that's what I would tell people because it's the easiest thing to explain, which it's not ARFID. I was recently corrected by my eating disorder specialist. And so I told the doctor that I explained to the doctor that I have an eating disorder that basically causes me to not be able to eat when I'm stressed, when I'm under any kind of stress. My anxiety is high or anything like that. If I've dissociated or whatever, I'm not able to eat. I have a voice that tells me that it's not safe, it's poison, don't eat. That's basically what the narration is in my head. He goes on to look up on Google eating disorders and looks at me and says, oh, well, you don't have an eating disorder because you are overweight. Only thin and emaciated people have eating disorders, so we need you to eat. And I'm like, it's not gonna, I can't get the food down. My body will reject the food. He didn't even want, he told me that he had no access to my psychiatric records, which I know now is a complete and total lie, because if I have access to my psychiatric records and I'm a patient, he has access, being an ER doctor. So he just refused to even look at him. Yeah, it was rough. So that's kind of where I've been the last few days. I will go ahead and add a second part to this because there's more to the story, but this is part 1. There will be a part 2 as to where I've been. So part 2 will consist of more of what happened that day in the ER, and then an EMDR therapy update. What's going on with that, what I'm working with, and what I've noticed doing EMDR. This is my life update part 2 where I've been. Welcome back. As I was saying in the prior video, I was admitted to the ER for extreme hypoglycemia and seizure-like events, which in reality were myself dissociating due to anxiety and panic, and basically a PTSD response as uh, basically because I was back in the hospital where my mom passed away. And I usually go into PTSD response when I'm in there. So, like I was saying before, the doctor in the ER refused to admit or refused to acknowledge, not admit, acknowledge that I had an eating disorder. And he basically said, you can't have an eating disorder because you're thin or you're overweight, sorry. Only thin people have eating disorders. So you need to basically, he said it in a nice way, grow a pair and eat. And I'm like, it's not going to happen that way. So they, after I spoke to him, they switched me to my third room that I had already been into two other rooms in the ER. They switched me to my third room, and a new doctor came in, who then proceeded to say that due to my severe hypoglycemia, I would need to stay in the hospital overnight. To which I denied. I basically, at this point, I was leaving AMA due to the fact that my father did not know, nor my sister did not know that I had been taken to the ER via ambulance due to low blood sugar, as I did not tell them, and I requested that they not be notified. So basically, fast forward 2 days after being discharged from the hospital the first day. Fast forward 2 days, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning with a severe muscle spasm in my back. Again, I have cerebral palsy, so I'm used to muscle spasms happening, and I take medication, I take Aleve to help alleviate the pain. This time, the Aleve did not help. Not only did it not help, but I was having shortness of breath. So I decided that at this point we decided, my dad, my sister, and I decided, okay, you need to go into the ER. This is the worst you've ever been. They took me to the ER. I was seen by a doctor there, had a chest CT, had a chest X-ray, lab work, the whole 9 yards, just the whole typical ER fare. Everything was negative. They gave me a couple doses of morphine, and then I was sent home. Which, the second time that I was taken to the ER, thankfully I didn't have any anxiety, as the fact that I requested to be taken to the ER. Whereas the first day I was taken, not against my will, but it was more of an emergent case. Whereas the second time around, it was more calm. I wasn't rushed to the ER, so it didn't trigger a lot of my PTSD. The first time did severely trigger my PTSD. So, in a way, it was kind of a better round the second time around. So, and then fast forward again to yesterday, as I had my EMDR therapy session on Wednesday of this week. I met up with my EMDR therapist, who is a specialist in trauma, as I'm diagnosed with severe PTSD. From dating back to when my mom passed away, my mom and both of my grandmothers in a matter of 6 months were taken from me, back to back. So I developed complex medical PTSD. And have been in therapy now for a while. So I'm kind of finally now getting into being able to process the trauma of everything. So I went in, saw my therapist, kind of gave her a little bit of a background of what had happened in the past, time since we had seen each other. She's like, well, there's a lot of work to do here. Let's get to work and try to get you to process all of this, because when I have difficulty processing everything, my eating disorder ways kick in. And part of how I self-injure or self um, destruct is I tend to um, stop eating. And that is um, a big thing because I can go from eating normally to not eating at all on the push of a button. So
It's 11 a.m.
um, so we did a lot of the trauma processing. I went through and explained everything that had happened in the hospital. And then she broke it down and had me literally process every step of what happened during an exercise. And that worked incredibly, incredibly well. Um, I was able to completely process the the trauma of being um, taken by ambulance, the fear that I had. Um, I did really well. I ended up dissociating towards the end of the exercise pretty severely. I woke up from the dissociation. I felt lost. I didn't know where I was. I knew who she was. Thank God I was able to know who she was. But I didn't know where I was. Everything looked very weird, very strange to me. And I kept saying, I feel lost, I feel lost, I feel lost. And she's like, you're not lost. You feel lost, but you're not lost. You're right here. We're in Kaiser. You're safe. Obviously, I don't speak in English during my therapy sessions just because I'm more able to express my feelings and what's going on in my brain in Spanish. So a lot of these sessions are done all of my sessions are done in Spanish. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a gist of what exactly was said. But yeah, that's kind of where I've been for the past few weeks. It's been so overwhelming that, not overwhelming, but just a lot of stuff that I actually just made an appointment with my primary care doctor just to do a check-in to let her know that, hey, everything's okay. Because a lot of what she's reading on my file is pretty intense. And I want to let her know that I'm okay and that I'm, working through this. On top of also having more episodes of desatting during the day. I went to have a physical done. I was supposed to go see her, but she wasn't in. And I had to reschedule with a different doctor because I needed the physical done within those couple of days because it was for my in-home caregiving agency, and they could not wait any longer. So I went to go see the doctor, had the physical, and while at the physical, again, I dissociated. My blood sugar was low. It was in the 60s. It wasn't low. It wasn't where they had to actually give me glucagon this time around. It was low, but it was a normal low for me. So they just gave me some juice and kind of brought me back. But there's more. I'm going to give you a part 3 to this one in just a second. Hopefully this is the last part, but welcome to part 3 of my life update and where I've been. So back to going to have the physical done. After the physical was completed, I was okay and then suddenly began to feel completely dissociated, very dizzy, started hypoventilating, which I've never done. I usually will hyperventilate, never hypoventilate, to the point where my oxygen sats dropped down to 80 again, which prompted the doctor to want to take me to the ER for a third time. And I denied and said, I'm sorry, I can't do a third ER. I cannot do the ER for a third time. It's too traumatizing, can't do it. So I was able to come to, and they were able to send me home. But that doctor did put in a referral for me to go see a pulmonologist, as he noticed that I was having some form of hypoventilation syndrome, hypoventilation syndrome that was due in part to my cerebral palsy, but that my weight obviously was not helping. So he sent me to a pulmonologist, and now I'm my appointment for that is on the 27th of this month. I recently, as far back as I think it was January or February of this year, was on home oxygen for a 30-day period. 24-hour oxygen for like a 30-day period. And then I was able to go off. But right now, we don't know why my oxygen saturations are dropping during the day. And I typically do monitor stats, especially after this last appointment with having my physical done, and him even saying, something's not right. He could tell that I was not breathing normally, but I wasn't cyanotic. I didn't turn blue. I just kind of was out of it. Really, in all fairness, I was like dissociated completely. I was able to speak, but not loud enough to be heard. It was more of like a breathy type of speech. So he knew something was wrong. He didn't know what it was, but he said she needs to go to a pulmonologist. So, and that's kind of been it as far as medically for me. Other than that, I've just been here diamond painting and, to and from physical therapy, trauma release therapy, medical appointments. Just really haven't had a lot of time to update too much on everything. I am going to use the drafts from this, and I'm going to put together a video for my personal YouTube channel, Real Life with Vanessa, where I'm going to upload all three parts of this video into one. If you want to see a more cohesive video, you can go ahead and follow me or go find my channel on YouTube. But that's kind of where I've been. Now that everything's kind of coming back down to normal and kind of I'm a little bit more stable, I will be giving more updates and more, little 10, 15-second reels showing you my progress. I'm also going to show, I also started a 2,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, my biggest one yet. I started this about 4 or 5 days ago. So I'm doing that a lot too. So I'm going to kind of show you updates on that and my diamond painting, and just kind of keeping everybody up to date as far as what's going on, what my progress is on both things, both my painting and my puzzle. This painting is a 60 by 80 centimeter from Dreamer Designs. It is basically a 23.5 by 31.5 inch canvas. And it's the Under the Rainbow, legally licensed from Carolyn Steele through Dreamer Designs. It is one of my favorites. I have never worked with AB drills, and this is my first canvas working with AB drills, and they look absolutely beautiful compared to every other canvas that I've done. Like I said before, usually I work with Evermoment, and I love their canvases, but oh my goodness, this has been one of the nicest ones I've worked that is not Evermoment. So it was pricey. It wasn't It was not on the cheaper side, but it is worth the money that it put into it. I actually bought 2 of them on Dreamer Designs. Once this one is done, I will be unboxing and preparing the second one, and that video will also be up on my Cuban Diamond Paintings YouTube channel. So again, I want to thank you all for watching. Appreciate it. I just want to let you guys know that I am safe. I am okay. I am back, basically. But I wanted to let you know where I was and why I wasn't posting, daily, weekly, every other day kind of updates, which I've done in the past. So I appreciate you guys. I will see you in the next video. If you have any questions, go ahead and DM me or leave them here, and I can further answer any questions information that I may have left out that you guys may be interested in. Thank you all. Have a good one.